I'm a starting entrepreneur, which means I don't have much business experience, unless you count my snow shoveling business as a kid. My hope was that by doing all these podcasts with George, I could learn from his experience and avoid some hard knocks. And that's happening. But to my surprise, I'm beginning to lead with business savvy.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy.
Welcome to the Get Business Savvy podcast. I'm George Black, and I've helped lead 19 companies to over $1 billion in combined revenue.
And I'm AJ Bishop, a starting entrepreneur.
Yeah, so guys, leading with business savvy is so much easier than trying to do all the business stuff and hard knocks and business experience. And you can actually learn this. And AJ, I'm thrilled to hear you're figuring it out and you're learning some business savvy. And we'll show you in this podcast how you can begin leading with business savvy and some of the core concepts that make it happen.
I know when I started, George, I didn't even think of this concept of business savvy. I knew there were experienced business professionals and some people had a better feel for it than others, but I didn't think about it in terms of savviness. I thought you kind of just got into your business and you figured it out as you go. And as you go, you learn experience and then you know a little bit more. So does experience equal business savvy then in that case?
Well, no, it doesn't, actually. So I've known entrepreneurs and business owners, and actually the first company I started leading with, he had, 10 or 15 years of experience. He had no business savvy. He was possibly the worst business owner I've ever met.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
So I'm actually playing off a line from the movie The Pirates of the Caribbean with Jack Sparrow. Here's the thing, is Jack Sparrow actually is the savviest pirate.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy.
He's actually the savviest pirate there is. And later, the same officer will say something like, I'm doing this from memory. He says something like, that's possibly the best pirate I've ever seen. Because he actually gets away with stealing the ship, but it wasn't the ship he stole originally. Well, I'm scene spoiling. Okay. Business savvy is just like that. Okay. And this business owner, I loved him. He loved what he did. It was roofing construction and did great work. But when it came to the business stuff, and that's why what he loved about me was I had business savvy. I didn't even know it at the time. Okay. So here's the thing. Business experience doesn't help you lead with business savvy, because leading is something different than just having business experience.
Jack Sparrow? Really? Are you kidding?
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, so he's taking over the ship and he goes,
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy.
The line before that is, two men can't possibly sail one of these ships. Well, that's true. And think about this in terms of business, because in business, it takes a whole crew to run the company. All right. But Jack actually does it, and he does it with savvy. And when you have savvy, you're going to get more creative. You're going to lead. You're not going to do, you're going to lead, and it's going to change the dynamic.
That's starting to make a lot more sense with Jack Sparrow, where it's especially when you bring up creative, because most people wouldn't consider Jack Sparrow to be particularly savvy. But now once you bring in the creativity element of it and being able to lead from your passions and lead from your heart, I'm actually starting to see it a little bit here.
Well, I think what Jack is doing is very savvy, because he's coming across like he is the worst pirate, but he's actually the best pirate. And so he knows exactly what he's doing. Now, he doesn't know it's going to work. Okay. That part, even I think he gets a little surprised at how well some things turn out for him. But, and this was a favorite movie of ours, especially when the boys were growing up, and, savvy. He said, but it's so fascinating, because what most business owners do is they think, if I go through business experience, I've got hard knocks, I've learned it. So what I've observed with some entrepreneurs is that, yeah, they have the hard knocks, they have the experience, but it just gives them a better gut feel. And honestly, feel is not the best leadership style. All right. So we want to talk about what it is to lead with business savvy.
Yeah. And so now that brings up a question for me is because I was kind of thinking of savviness being similar to that gut feel you're talking about, but what's kind of the difference between those two?
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. All right. So once upon a time, there was this entrepreneur who has a passion for something. Okay. And that passion for something, he goes, you know what, there's a big opportunity here in my world that if I can figure out how to solve this, then this could be a really good business. And he has a passion for that. He has a passion for solving the problem. He has a passion for whatever it is. And you guys listening, you have those passions, okay? And so the business starts. And as it goes, he's loving it. He's making more money and getting more sales, and the business is growing, maybe hiring a couple people to help, all that kind of stuff. Well, pretty soon, success builds on success, and you start having a real business. And that's where the problems start, because you start having all these business issues, which are not why you got into what you do in the first place.
So then is this where the owner kind of goes gut feel or business experience?
Kind of. So here's the problem. Here's the problem with business experience for a lot of guys is it takes you out of what you love. And because somebody's got to address these business issues, okay? I mean, I understand the real world. I live in it, okay? And you can't just be in la la land and, but typically the business owner, the entrepreneur, they're out front. They're leading the ship, so to speak, in creating sales or production or whatever it is that you're doing. They're in that space. And so the business, I always like to consider the business side of the business kind of like the engine room of the ship, okay? It's like it just keeps the motor going. We got to, but it's not what we see and it's not what we do. We're not a business to just do business. We're a business to do this passion. Okay. Well, most business owners typically will rely on gut feel because they want to stay somewhat in their passion. And so they hand off stuff to other people. And I'm not saying they lead it, they hand it off. Now, they may think they're leading it, like I'm delegating, but out of sight, out of mind is not delegation.
It's avoidance.
Yes, right. And the avoidance is for self-preservation, because the other option is, and I've seen this happen too, is you get sucked into the business stuff and it happens to everyone. The business eventually is screaming for attention. We need more money. We need receivables collected. Payables need to be done with. We've got employee issues. We've got this, that. And these things, where you had like 80% of your time in your passion, now you might have 10% of your time in your passion. And you're going like, I didn't sign up for this.
And does business savviness help you avoid going down that path? Does being business savvy help you deal with those business issues as they come up, but in a way that doesn't take you entirely away from your passions? Does being business savvy mean you can live mostly in your passions and efficiently deal with those business problems as they come up?
Okay. Yes, in a way, because I'm going to go back to Jack Sparrow. Here's why Jack Sparrow was the best pirate he's ever seen. Because Jack knew where he was headed and what he was after. And I'm not going to scene spoil that, okay? But you got to watch the whole movie. So with direction, he had strategy. And business savvy is leading in a direction with strategy. And it's not doing all the business details, okay?
So it ties back to something we've talked about a lot, where it's the business leader. The leader leads with strategies. The leader leads with direction. And if you find yourself executing tactic after tactic after tactic, you're not leading. And so you need strategies where you're not going to have to be executing on all of the individual tactics to achieve them.
And why are you not leading if you're just doing tactic?
You're working, you're doing, you're maybe managing at best.
Yes. So you're down in the weeds. You've lost your line of sight. You've really lost your direction. Okay. And you don't know where you're going or even why you're doing what you're doing. And what's drained away are the passion, the original reasons why you started all of this. And the thing is that you don't ever have to get there. You can start leading with business savvy if you're a solopreneur.
Well, how does that work? I thought a leader needs followers.
So AJ, what comes first? Being a leader, or having followers?
Kind of a chicken and the egg scenario right there.
Right. So
I guess the leader, right?
You'd have to be. How are you going to get followers if you're not a leader?
So we answered it. The chicken came first.
The chicken came first. So here's the thing: is that we should do a whole podcast. We need to do a lot more on leadership, but this is absolutely key. You need to be operating day one as leading with business savvy, and here's why. Because I can tell you, it will lead to great growth potentially and sustainable growth, and because you're going to be leading, not doing. And as a leader, you're going to be looking for ways you can push things out and away from you.
And if you're a leader and you're doing too much all the time, does that drain away your business savvy? Does doing take away from business savvy because you're not leading and you're not thinking forward?
Well, let me be very specific with that. It's the doing the business stuff, not doing the passion stuff. So go back to my original company where the business owner loved doing roofing construction. He could sell it all day long, lead crews, all that kind of stuff. He needed to stay in that, but he needed to understand and lead the business side so that here's what happens. If I just say, oh, my bookkeeper handles all of that, the problem is the bookkeeper knows that. I've seen companies where the people in a position of like payables and stuff like that, they're swindling money out. They're embezzling money.
Yeah, because as a leader, if you just delegate handling, quote unquote, handling something, isn't that just opening the door for them to take advantage of you, especially if you're not leading them anywhere?
Well, it can, absolutely. Let's just go back to my bookkeeper, for example. If they're a bookkeeper or even an accounting manager kind of person, they are only going to be able to go as far as they can go. But here's what they don't know. They may know accounting, but they don't know where you're leading the business. They don't know where you're going with your passions. And they don't know how to align with you because you're not leading them.
And if they're not aligning their work with your vision, ultimately there's going to be dysfunction down the line.
Well, it could be more than dysfunction. There could be embezzlement because they know. I guarantee you, I have been in so many companies where I have seen this, where the people know the owner is checked out on certain things, and he's not going to catch it for years, maybe never. And so they do a little something. They take a little something extra. They see if anyone notices. No one notices. They do it again. Now, when they get stupid, that's when they get caught. But if they just pilfer a little and a little, you may never know, because how would you know?
Yeah. How would you know? They're keeping the books.
Well, not only that but see, that's the fallacy. The fallacy is they're keeping the books. Wait a minute. This is 2024. Everything's transparent. If I knew what I was looking for, I could spot it. Let me talk about the good business savvy leaders I've met and worked with. They have metrics. They know what's going on. And this was how I figured out Well, there's basically two fundamental principles that will guide you in leading and getting business savvy.
Oh, so are those two key principles the basis of the triangle you have on your website, livetrulyfree.com?
That's a great catch, AJ. Yes. So for those on YouTube, I've got it up on the screen where you can see it, and I will just describe it. So it's a triangle, and the bottom line is an arrow pointing in both directions. You can start in either corner. So in one corner is understanding your numbers, and the other is map your direction. Okay. And if you go up the left side, which the understand your numbers is, it's leading with decisions based in your numbers. Okay. And then on the right side, where it says map your direction, up that side of the triangle is leading with strategies and tactics. So in the center of the triangle, it says the secret to the process is strategies sourced in your passions, because we want to keep your passions. So at the top of the triangle, it says creates business savvy and sustainable, profitable growth with greater fulfillment. So that's where we want to end up. Okay. So you're leading with business savvy, you're creating sustainable growth, and that's profitable. Really key, important point there. And the most important thing is you are experiencing greater fulfillment. And we really want everyone in the organization feeling more fulfillment than just being a cog in the wheel, because everyone now knows the same direction. Everyone can move to that direction as one, and everyone's contributing to that.
And it's really that simple. It just starts with those two things, understanding your numbers and mapping your direction. And I mean, when you boil business savvy down to that, that feels very attainable.
That's right, AJ. And can you see how this isn't relying on your gut, and this isn't relying on your business experience?
Yeah, this is relying on two things you very much have control over. And
Right.
you can do independent of how much experience you have.
That's correct. Here's the amazing thing. When you have this perspective and you're leading, your experience is going to grow in a way that will feed your business savvy. And that's really kind of hard for me to explain. The reason that is because if you're getting business experience in the tactics, then you've got tactical business experience. But if you're getting a business experience in the leadership of your business, in the direction you're going while doing your passions, well, then that's going to be a higher level of business experience. So one thing to just be aware of is keep watching how much you're in your passions. And if you're kind of start considering from, well, when I started, I'm not as much in my passions today as I was back then. That's okay if it's just a little bit down. But if it's like 90% down, that's not okay, like I said earlier. But I think you should be greater than 50% of your time in your passions, and you'll probably find your passions growing, expanding, going in new directions, and that sort of thing.
And isn't this the core of what you're doing with guiding entrepreneurs and the masterminds you're putting on and stuff like that?
That's right, AJ. And I'm launching the Business Savvy Guided Masterminds to do that, where we're going to focus on mapping your direction, using my strategic process for that, and understanding your numbers. Now, here's the tricky thing. I also know that you're going to have business issues, guys, that you got to get solved. And so we're going to deal with those too, because honestly, sometimes you got to deal with some of those issues to get to the growth and the sustainable profitability. So we're going to have a maximum of 12 people. So we can really work with you guys, and you can find out more at the link below. But I'd also say grab a free spot in my webinar, the Exponential Growth webinar, because that gives you a taste of the mastermind. Plus, you can ask questions in the webinar that you have on your business, and you're going to actually get some really helpful tips in moving toward more business savvy. So just click the link below to sign up, or go to getbusinesssavvy.com. And I'd love for you to check out these videos right here. I think it's going to foster your business savvy. And until next time, may you live truly free.